From being the Rookie of the Year to the most hated NBA player ever, what exactly happened to Ben Simmons' reputation? Well, it all started with the Philadelphia 76ers. Things were going great until they just weren't. The 76ers depended on Ben a lot. After all, he was one of their best players. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the three-time All-Star demanded a trade. Fans were surprised, of course, but most thought that it would blow over soon. That's not what happened. No, that was just the beginning. It all went downhill from there, and now it seems like Ben has hit rock bottom.
For me, it was just making sure mentally I was right to get out there and play again. So that's something I've been, dealing with. And it wasn't about the fans or coaches or comments made by anybody. It was just a personal thing for me.
And you know what they saw. When you're at rock bottom, there's no other way to go other than up. Or you could take the second option like Ben and stay there. First of all, when the Sixers refused to trade him, he stopped playing. Like, completely stopped. How ridiculous is that? Needless to say, fans were not happy. They still aren't, really. Even with the hate he's getting from Nets fans because of his poor performance, there's nothing that can beat the grudge Philadelphia fans still hold toward the man. And honestly, they aren't wrong for it.
With how they're able to operate in the post and get to the basket.
Simmons entering the post, wheels around, and he hits. How about that?
Sure, he had every right to ask for a trade, but to stop playing when he was the main person on the team, that was wrong. But of course, that didn't matter to Ben. He kept on it until after the preseason started. He missed training camp, the media day, and whatnot, and then after he finally did return because of the fines, probably, but it didn't go any better. Anyone who thought it would just be crazy. Tensions were high. It had gotten to the point that team members were complaining about how disrespectful he was being.
For me, I don't know. I feel like I'm in a good place, for me to come in here and just play basketball. I'm happy. I'm doing what I love. So, to be out there.
And of course, they didn't react well to him just suddenly coming back. But what's worse, Ben didn't play well either. And the result? He was suspended. And then that's it. That was the last time he played for the 76ers. A new year came, fines piled up, and yet he didn't show up for another game whatsoever. It looked like they finally had enough. And that's when they traded him to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden. An incredible deal for the Sixers if you ask me, especially since the Nets are still having trouble finding a use for Ben.
Simmons, Euros, and lays it in. Ben Simmons, that was dazzling.
The athlete may have once been a talented player, maybe he's not a fan favorite or the greatest out there, but he definitely has his life together. But now he's nothing but a burden to the Nets, and potentially any other team that he gets traded to. I bet they're really regretting ever thinking of trading James. I mean, he was an incredible player, not someone who decided to just quit showing up at games because he wasn't getting enough support and help from his teammates and coaches. Like, hey, I'm not saying that he wasn't struggling. Mental health's hard to deal with, but the athlete's still a grown man. And it was his job to handle such a delicate situation, well, like a grown man.
Just go in there and work every day and try and get back and stronger than I was. So I'm looking forward to that next day, each day, getting close to my goal.
But he didn't, and it's coming to bite him in the back. You see, the Brooklyn Nets had some very specific plans when they took Ben in, and let's just say Simmons is adamant about ruining them. Now, of course, after everything that had happened, the first thing he needed to do was redeem himself. His reputation was in ashes, and the hate that spread from the 76ers to basically all of the basketball community. Not to mention the Nets fans weren't exactly too enthusiastic about the new addition. So everybody knew what the NBA player was supposed to do. He was supposed to go onto the court. He was supposed to play like he used to. And he was supposed to show that he wasn't the problem. Except that didn't happen.
Need to fill some holes, but they're going to ride with it. Consistency matters. Nice lead. This time Dinwiddie sets up Ben Simmons with the lob.
Just when he was about to play, his back got injured, and he had to go through back surgery. Now, usually, fans have a lot of sympathy when athletes get injured, especially when the timing is important enough to define their whole career. But it seems like Ben was the exception, or at least he had made himself the exception, because the basketball community was not happy about the news.
But us collectively, we got to understand that and play a certain way with pace, movement, and got to play team basketball, because I feel like when we're playing team basketball, it's hard for anybody to stop us.
The Nets fans were brimming with frustration, while Sixers fans were either mocking them or expressing their sympathy, because, well, they of all people knew too well what it felt like. But the thing is, Big Ben's problems didn't end there. You'd think that after he's finally recovered and back on the court, things will calm down. Even if he doesn't play great, he'll be able to, at the very least, keep up with the rest of the team.
Do you do grocery shopping in this quick trip home? As the foul goes against Memphis.
But of course, Ben did disappoint. His shooting was just bad. There's no other way to put this. And sure, it isn't supposed to be his primary strength, but come on, there's no way he's that bad. The three-time All-Star can do better. We've seen him do better. And I know his shooting hasn't been that great since day one, but that's the problem, isn't it? Day one's long past. Maybe it's time to put some more effort into actually getting the ball through the hoop. This brings me to the main reason everybody hates him so much. It looks like Simmons has lost all interest in basketball.
Year $2 million deal. He's been very much worth it. Nobody home, and Simmons rocks the rim.
Hell, with the way he's acting right now, you'd think he never had any to begin with. He's made no effort whatsoever to improve his weaknesses. You see, there were many who believed that Ben does indeed have a lot of potential, but even they've given up now, and now they only go on about how he's useless, even though he was destined for greatness. That counts for something. In fact, that counts for a lot. But that leads to all the more criticism. The fact that it's so obvious that he could have been better or greater just makes his weaknesses more prominent to them.
Said no. Irving, great look. Simmons, the flush in transition.
Or, putting it more clearly, how his weaknesses became even more glaringly obvious as each day goes by, instead of shrinking, as they should. And this has led many to believe that Simmons is putting absolutely no effort whatsoever into improving, or becoming a reliable member of his team. After all, the Nets need him now more than ever. Now that Kevin and Kyrie are out of the picture, Ben's the most notable guy on the roster. But the problem? He's currently out due to knee pain.
Ben showed more ability to play with force in the second half, which paid off, which is what we need, which was great for our team. And then down the stretch,
And recent news claims that he has back issues on top of that. That's just great. Imagine getting a whole back surgery, and when you think you're finally done, these random back issues start coming up. But of course, he isn't the only one suffering. The Nets are in a bit of a crisis right now. Sure, they have Bridges, Nick, and Spencer, but they need the three-time All-Star as well. And sure, he did pretty well for, like, 6 games, but that really isn't that much of a reassurance. And even if he did well, it wasn't like it was mind-blowing or anything.
To look for in the preseason.
Oh, Simmons over his head to Claxton for the flush.
Definitely less than what the Nets need right now if they want to win the championship. Not that I think they have a great chance at doing that. Maybe they can start working towards a better roster by next season. But right now, all the Nets can do is cross their fingers and hope for a miracle to happen, because there are basically no chances of Ben being successful in the position he's been suddenly thrust into. After all, he was only supposed to be supporting KD and Irving. He wasn't supposed to have such a massive responsibility. I'm not sure he could do that in his prime, let alone right now. But I guess fans will just have to wait and see where this goes from here. That's all for me on Ben Simmons' descent from a potential superstar to becoming unplayable.